Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. So today I would like to start a new segment called Girl Talk Tuesday. And I want to do this because recently I found out some things about myself, and I just want to talk to you guys just in case there are other ladies out there who are going through similar experiences and you don't have anyone to talk to, like I didn't have anyone to talk to or anyone to relate to. So here we go. Today we are going to be talking about my fibroid story. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. So okay, so if I were just to take it back to the beginning, I've always been a normal, regular period girl. Like always regular sized pads. When I started to use tampons, they were the regular sized ones. Never had any issues with leakage or things like that. I actually was a very active teenager. I played sports, I danced, I danced a lot. I did all types of dance, ballet, African, jazz, everything. I was a dancer, I did cheerleading, everything. I played soccer, I ran track at one point. That didn't last long, but I did. I was a very active girl. So, and I didn't have any issues with leakage, like I said. So, I was just a regular girl. Fast forward years later, so I'm now 30 years old. But back when I was 24, that's when I first noticed some things changing. Like, I started to bleed through my clothes, the bed, down to the mattress, and I'm just doing what I normally do. Meaning, I just put in a new tampon or something, and I think the day that this happened, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I had on a tampon and a pad. But I know that I had just went to the bathroom. Mind you, I was at my boyfriend's house at the time, and I bled through. So I'm like, what's going on in my body? And I remember around that point, I was having bad cramps, and I really didn't know what was going on because I always had cramps growing up. Even back when I was like 13 years old, I had horrible cramps. Like, I would be bent over feeling nauseous. I had them in my legs, my back, my stomach. It was horrible, literal torture, until I finally got a good regimen where I would take my ibuprofen before my cramps came in, so that way it just eliminated me ever even getting cramps. But so I always had cramps, but I just remember this period of time, them getting really bad, and I really tried hard to not take any pain pills because I really was trying to live a more natural and holistic type of lifestyle. So I remember reading Sacred Woman by Queen Afua, and I remember she talks about that if you give up meat, then that will help you have, I guess, a more manageable and a less heavy, less painful period. So I tried it and it worked. Literally, I gave up meat, and like the next month I barely had any cramps. And I was just confused. I was really like, whoa, this is crazy. This really worked. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. And then the next month, I had no cramps at all. So for years after that point, I didn't eat meat, and I didn't get cramps either. So I didn't even know when my period was going to start. It literally was just, oh, I feel something coming out, and then that's how my period would start because my body gave me no notice. There were no period feelings of any sort. And that was great for a while. And I will say, I remember talking to my physician about it, and my physician was like, oh, well, we could just give you birth control too. Like, that always helps for period pains. And I'm like, yeah, I just told you that I fixed the issue with my nutrition. So why are you even mentioning birth control? Because I wasn't on birth control and I didn't want any at the time. I had tried birth control a few times in the past in my life, but at that point, like I said, I was trying to live a more holistic lifestyle. And I will also say, I did stop eating meat from the time I was 14 until I was 18, and I only ate fish. I still love fish, but at that time I was still getting cramps. But I think when I first started the Queen Afua eating habits, I think I gave up like all meat. I probably still ate fish here and there, but very sparingly. So yeah, for a while that worked. I was good. I didn't have no issues with period pains, but over the years, my period was just still getting heavier, it seemed, and I started to have to like change my lifestyle when it came to my period. If I knew that it was going to be coming, I had to start acting differently and, like preparing and, wearing pads and stuff. So we're just going to fast forward a few more years later down the line. Mind you, I ended up going on state insurance at one point, and I remember my period got really heavy, and so I started to complain to my doctors about it, and literally all they would ever suggest was birth control. And still at that point I was like, no, I really don't want birth control. And as I was doing my own research, I started to find out about how prevalent fibroids are in Black women in our community. And so after I did a little bit more digging deep and researching fibroids, I find out that they're fed by hormones, and mainly estrogen feeds the fibroids. So if I were to go on birth control, because I did, like I said, I hadn't been on birth control at the time, and I know the birth control I was on was an estrogen, it had estrogen in it. So that would have only fed my fibroid. And even though I probably wouldn't have had any cramps and maybe my bleeding would have been lighter, I'm sure it probably would have been, but it actually would have been making my issue worse, because I would have, if I had fibroids, because at the time I didn't know what was going on, it would have increased my fibroids. They would have gotten larger in size, and I probably would have gotten more. So I was just really taken aback that the doctors were really prescribing this for me. So I wouldn't do it. Finally, when I was 28 years old, so this is a whole 4 years later, finally at this point I didn't have any insurance at all. I had missed the deadline for well, in Connecticut it's called Access Health Connecticut, but it's Obamacare. You sign up at the beginning of the year, and I missed the deadline, so I just didn't have any insurance at all at the time. So I go to the doctor, and they're like, oh, we can set you up for an ultrasound. So now, like I said, before I had state insurance and nobody was really helping me. They were just offering me birth control. Now that I'm paying out of pocket, which is crazy, but now that my bill isn't going to have to be paid by the government, now someone's actually taking me serious and saying, oh, we can go ahead and give you a screening and find out what's going on. Hold on, wait, let me just backtrack really quick. What really started to become a problem was around the time I was 26, I started to have these spells where I would feel like I was going to pass out. I would literally, it started just from me taking showers, and I think it might have even started when I was 25, but I would be taking showers, and I just thought that, oh, the water must be too hot, because if I took a long shower, I would literally have to run. So yeah, I think I was 25 because I know this happened while I was still living with my parents. I would literally run to my room to dive on my bed so I wouldn't pass out. That carried over for years. I remember I was in New York. I was waiting for the subway once, and I was horrified because I'm like, oh shoot, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna pass out. And I remember the train came right then. As soon as I ran up onto the platform, the train was coming, and I was able to just dive onto the subway, onto the seat, and lay down, because every single time, all I knew was that I just needed to lay down. What I found out later on is that it's because I was extremely anemic, and which I still am, but I was extremely anemic, and so I needed the blood to be able to circulate and get to my brain. So that's why I just felt like I had to lay down or I'm going to pass out. It happened numerous occasions, and to the point where one time I actually fainted while I was at work. And the crazy part is, even in the hospital, in the emergency room, when I'm sitting here with an IV in my arm, these people are telling me, well, we need to just start you on birth control. And then we'll figure out what the issue is later. And I'm like, no, I'd much rather you figure out what's going on because I just fainted. And they just saw that your hemoglobin is extremely low, so you just need to get on birth control. That was their only issue. That was their main goal. I will say I have had doctors prescribe me iron pills in the past. I've always been like wary of iron pills just because it might be TMI, but I have issues with constipation. So, you know, sometimes iron pills will cause that, and I just didn't want any more issues. So, finally, when I was 28 years old and I was paying for all of my medical expenses out of pocket, finally, I got an ultrasound that showed I have 2 fibroids. Sorry if you hear noises in the back. Jeremy's back there cooking. So, but yeah, so finally at this point, I find out I have 2 fibroids, which was a huge relief because I'm like, good. I know I'm not crazy. I just needed to find out what was the cause for all of this, everything going on in my life. So good, I found out. After that point, the doctor that I had at that point, though, she said, well, they're not in a position that will cause any issues with you conceiving. And also, if you do conceive, they won't really cause many, like where my fibroids are, since they're not actually inside of the uterus, then they're not really concerned about them becoming an issue for the baby. They said that, my doctor said that the baby might be smaller than normal, like might be a little bit smaller than normal, but for the most part, there should be no issues. So she said, so you just be fine. And I'm sitting here like, girl, at this point, I'm like flash flooding. Like it's like a murder scene when I use the bath, like when I have my period. At this point, I'm like, this is really, really bad. This is the reason why I'm coming forward, paying out of pocket for an ultrasound, because I'm like, girl, this is like, how am I supposed to live like this? And that was it. I could either go on birth control or that was that. No one ever spoke to me about what am I eating, nutrition. No one even spoke to me about exactly what are fibroids, what causes fibroids. They were just like, well, no issues, so you can either go on birth control, but I'm sure you want to have a kid or something at some point, so if you don't want birth control, you'll be fine. And that was that. And I'm like, what? So fast forward again, finally now at 30 years old, finally I am going to have fibroid removal surgery. I am scheduled to have my surgery in October. I'm very nervous. I will say also, I did try to shrink my fibroids. I tried to do the whole alkaline diet. I tried to be on my whole Dr. Savvy and like eat the right foods, alkaline foods, all of that. I tried, but my fibroids have actually, one of them has doubled in size. Right now, I have one that I believe is like the size of like a grapefruit. And I don't remember how big the other one is. It's smaller though. But they both have doubled in size. And now I can't go to work on certain days. For me, it's day 2. That's a really, really bad day. But lately, day 3 has also been really bad. So, I know for a fact I will not be at work on day 2, but I also now don't know if day 3 is going to be a day where I can't go to work. So it's heavier. Recently I had a whole flash flood incident, despite the fact that I had on protection, I had on backup, because I knew that my period was going to be starting. So I, was prepared, and I still had a whole flash flood in the middle of a restaurant while I was waiting for my food. Like, not even a seated restaurant where I could be sitting down, like, and can cover myself. No, I was waiting, like standing in line, like one of those restaurants where you just sit and order and there's a counter and you just order with the woman. It was a Jamaican restaurant. Scots, y'all probably have Scots where you are. There's a Scots restaurant, and I was ordering my food, standing in line, waiting for my order to be up, and flash flood with a whole line full of people behind. Like the store was filled with people and there was a whole line behind me. I'm like, this is crazy. This cannot, like, this just can't keep going on like this. So yeah. So now I'm at the point where I'm going to be having surgery. I will like to keep you guys updated on the experience. To go back to my health issues and like my anemia. I started working with a naturopath. I've been seeing her now for like over a month. I had my lab results back. She's literally, again, it's crazy. She's literally like, I do not know how you are walking around because my levels are so low. My hemoglobin is a 6.4. If you know, women are supposed to be between 12 and 15. I'm just walking around with a 6.4. I don't remember all of my levels, but like my iron, I believe, is like 13 when the range that the lab gave was between 40 and 190 or something like that. And I'm just sitting here at 13. My B12, I think, was 3. Like literally, it's like I'm just losing all of my nutrients. My naturopath is wondering if there's other things involved too. She mentioned it's like a parasite, but it's similar to Lyme disease, or it's in a family of Lyme disease. It's called Babesia. She mentioned that. So I actually have 11 supplements that I'm taking now, and this isn't even the full regimen. So that's another topic. That's another situation. But yeah, the anemia is really bad. Can't go to work, and I don't have a lot of energy. My music, like, that's, to me, you guys know, like, my music is everything for me, and that is the biggest thing that scares me, because just shooting the Queen video, which, again, thank you guys so much for all of the love and the support that you guys given me, but that Queen video, I didn't even make it through the routine all the way through, ever. Never did I make it through the entire routine. I had to stop because I felt like I was going to pass out. That day just so happened to be the hottest day in Connecticut, well, in my area of Connecticut, so far that year. That was the hottest day. That day I really didn't eat much beforehand, but still, I couldn't make it through my routine, and that scares me because I perform. I actually have a show coming up in a couple of days, and it's horrifying to think, what if I'm in the middle of performing and I need to take a break? Like, you can't take a break. You're on stage, people are watching you. You can't take a break. So this whole fibroid experience has just been crazy. It's been a whirlwind. So again, this video is for my ladies. Let me know if any of y'all see this and you relate, and you guys have been in my shoes where you feel like you're not getting any answers from your doctor. It seems like it's so common amongst women, but for some reason it felt like no one really had any real answers for what I should do. But I will say that the doctor who I'm working with now, the one who is going to be performing my surgery, I will say shout out to one of my old co-workers. She actually put me on to him because, my patient, I used to work with a little girl who went to school, and so I would go to school with her every day and, just be in school as her nurse. And her para and I got to be super, super close. And she was there one time when I had like an accident, but like I went through my clothes while I was at work. And she was also there on the days when I couldn't come into work. Like, she knew that I've been having these issues. So she is the one who gave me her doctor's number. And I will say that since I started working with them, this new practice, it has just been such a relief that just from the original exam, he's like, oh yeah, if I was just doing your exam, I would tell you, oh, do you know that you have fibroids? Like, even if you didn't tell me, I would tell you because I can tell. I'm like, well, you're like the first person, because everyone else is like, well, during your exam, everything feels fine, as if the only way you can know if you have fibroids is if you can feel it. Like, Nah, I'm telling you, and I'm giving you my symptoms. And I'm also black, which should be a huge indicator that she probably has fibroids. But yes, so my doctor now though, this process, I mean, I probably would have had the surgery already if it wasn't for COVID, because my last appointment with him, where I had my previous ultrasound, was like the beginning of March. And then COVID hit, they were doing no more elective surgeries and everything had to be postponed. So yesterday I just had a transvaginal ultrasound and an SIS, which is when they put saline into your uterus to make sure, I guess he just wanted to make sure that there were no fibroids inside of my uterus, and because he didn't want to perform surgery and miss those, and those are the big ones. Those are the ones that really matter during childbirth, and really if you're ready to get pregnant, it's in the uterus, that's where the baby goes. So they performed that. It was extremely painful for me. I don't know if it's painful for everyone, but I was crying literally, and I'm not one to cry for physical pain, but I was literally crying. It was horrible pain, and then I got horrible cramps. Hours later, I got horrible cramps, I guess as my uterus was going back to its normal size. So anyway, this whole experience has been crazy, and I will keep you guys posted on just how this goes. I'll let you guys know what I hear when I go in for my pre-op appointment. And let me know if you like this type of video. I would like to keep doing these Girl Talk Tuesdays type of videos, and we could just talk about different things that maybe everyone doesn't feel comfortable speaking about openly. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that like button, and I will see you in the next video.